Hello and welcome to this episode of Math with Martinez. In today's video, we are looking to solve absolute value inequalities. So let's go ahead and begin. I want to first discuss and help you to remember that when we're working with absolute value, that absolute value means that there are those like two possibilities, right? And so when we have this greater than, when we see these greater than or equal to kind of scenarios, right, where we have our symbol absolute value greater than or equal to, the two real inequalities that we're discussing are x values greater than or equal to 7 and x values less than or equal to -7, right? So this first one looks exactly the same, right? Looks same sign direction, same value for your integer or for that value on the other side of the inequality. But then this second time, when you change the sign, right, when it's negative, you must change the direction. When you change that sign, you have to change the direction. And so when we go to graph these two values, where is that going to put us? X values greater than or equal to 7 is going to be starting right here, close circle, and to the right. And for the other x values, let me go ahead and show you that. And then in the other direction, when we have our x values less than or equal to our -7, well, that's going to be right over here at -7. Close up that little circle. And we're looking at less than that. So that's going to be to the left. Using interval notation to represent, though, this like little compound inequality is going to be from open boundary at -infinity all the way to -7. Close it up. And this is in union with the other, starting at that closed boundary of 7 all the way to infinity. So that's greater than or equal to. But ladies and gentlemen, you could also see the scenario where we are looking at less than or equal to. Less than or equal to, right? Where we have that our absolute value is less than or equal to some number. What is that going to look like? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it could be like so. Your x values would be, if you break this into the two pieces, less than or equal to 4. That's the less than or equal to 4 if we think about graphing that, right? X less than or equal to 4 is going to be everything going to the left out that way. But it's also x values greater than or equal to -4, right? Changing the sign and changing the direction of that symbol. So at -4, close it up, and we're saying everything greater than or equal to that. That's going that way. So where is that solution region? It is in that overlapping space between our endpoints for this compound inequality. And using interval notation, that would be from the closed boundary of -4 all the way to 4 and close that boundary. Now, what exactly does this mean? What did we just discover? What we just discovered is that absolute value inequalities our compound inequalities too. So that's kind of our little takeaway from that intro. Now, let me just introduce to you the steps in order to solve our absolute value inequalities. This is our gold right here. This is how we're going to go about this. So what are they? Step number one. Step number one is the one that I do not want you to forget. Please isolate that absolute value expression. Then you're going to move on to step number two, which is to create your two cases. Create your two cases, right? Where one is going to be, like we saw here, matchy matchy. But then the other, you change the direction and change the sign. Next step is going to be to solve both of those inequalities. And then whenever asked, to graph your solutions and write your answer in interval notation. Let's take a look at this first one together. If we are going to go through this, we need to begin with, step number one. Step number one, we need to isolate our absolute value expression. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is kind of nice because step one is already done. Step number one is already done for this one. You see, our absolute value is all by itself here on the left. There's nothing that is like being added or subtracted on this side or multiplied on this side. It is already done. So now let's go ahead and create our two cases. Let's go ahead and number them. Case number one and case number two. Let's create those two cases. The first case is that is that you have x plus 6, right? X plus 6 greater than 7, or that your x plus 6, what we're taking the absolute value of, is less than, right? Change the direction and change the sign of your value that we are looking at. All right, that was step number two. Now, step number three is to solve both of these inequalities. To do that, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to solve this inequality here? Yep, because it is a plus 6, I'm going to subtract 6 on each side and do the same over here in my other case. And that gives me x greater than a 1 and x less than a negative 13. Now we're ready to graph. We have x greater than 1. X greater than 1. Okay, well, here's 1, open circle, and we're looking at greater than. So that's going to be beyond, values bigger than it. That's going to be to the right. And also x less than a negative 13. Ooh, all the way over here, negative 13 and less than. There it is. Let's write this using interval notation. This is a or kind of statement, so we're going to have from, reading it from the left, way out here, it's all the way out here, forever and ever and ever, that is at negative infinity, all the way to 13, negative 13, open boundary because it's an open circle, in union with 1, all the way to infinity. There you have it, guys. Our 4 steps to solve absolute value inequalities, which are, as we saw, compound inequalities too. That's all for our video today. If you guys had any questions, please take a moment to share those now. And until next time, Stay fired up.